welcome to the Sugar and Spikes podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs, side hustlers, and anyone ready to uplevel their career in their own damn way. I'm Des. I'm a life coach for women who get that having it all sometimes means having to balance the good and the bad, the sugar and the spikes, and all the in-between.
And I'm Tammy. I'm a therapist, and I'm all about helping as many people as possible to build awareness and make meaningful changes in their lives. I'm also dedicated to diversity and inclusion and increasing access to mental health care.
Between the two of us, we have 4 master's degrees and thousands of hours helping people develop balance, confidence, and clarity on their terms. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Sugar and Spikes. This one is really, up there in terms of special episodes because of the guests that we have on. I'm Des.
And I'm Tammy.
And we have 2 guests. So I know for one, it's a first of having 2 guests.
That's true.
We have Kristen Theory and Holly Glowati of K&H Connection and Flourish. And if you guys don't know what that means, then I'm going to let them tell you all about all of those things.
Sweet. Well, thanks for having us, ladies. We're really excited to be on.
Yes.
Longtime listeners, big time fans, right?
Absolutely.
Well, hey, everybody, this is Holly Glowati, and I'll take the K&H portion of this. So as you might guess from that clever name, the K is for Kristen and the H is for Holly. But we are a consulting firm based in Chicago and Seattle, and we work with merchants on all things branded currency, which is things like gift card and loyalty and promotional points, and creating a cohesive brand experience around that. And so we launched about 3 years ago and have been going strong. We are lucky enough to have the wonderful help of Des going forward. So we're pretty lucky there. And then I'll let Kristen talk about Flourish.
Absolutely. So this is Kristen Theory, and we are the co-producers of Flourish as well. And it really derived out of a need that we saw in the marketplace within the branded currency industry. There were a couple other conferences that used to include content specific to our industry that ended up closing up shop. So there was really no one focused on our specific niche. So we decided, hey, we'll produce a conference to speak about the opportunities and challenges specific to branded currency. And we are now going into our 3rd year of Flourish, and we just announced our dates recently. So it will be April 1st through 3rd of 2019. And we are really excited to have another great year with amazing attendees and speakers and sponsors. So look for more information there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay. One reason why I'm really excited to have both Kristen and Holly on, and I mentioned this to them yesterday, but I don't think they know the full backstory.
Okay.
They're one of the reasons why Sugar and Spikes exists.
Oh.
Like, we've kind of had this conversation. So we've all kind of worked in the same broad industry for a minute. I knew them before I worked with them, and I was doing a competitive analysis of something back in the day. And someone made the statement of I was like, well, do we look at them? Do we not look at them? Pieces like that for K&H. And someone made the comment of, they're just 2 girls doing their thing. It's fine. And I was like, I want to be 2 girls doing my thing. Tammy and I are 2 girls. And that one sentence of, well, entrepreneurship isn't hard. They're just they're playing boss. No one said that, but that was definitely the tone. But there are things to unpack in that statement, and it made entrepreneurship accessible to me. And then from that moment, and it was before we had worked on Flourish and stuff, it was before I really got to know you guys. I will say you guys felt accessible in the industry, and I really looked up to you and was kind of watching the moves and how you were making things work on your own and everything. So this is another one of those full circle episodes that's kind of fun and exciting.
I love that. Well, that's so awesome to hear. And it really, such an incredible and humbling comment, and really appreciate that. But really, I always give credit to Holly for being the one to have the guts to really step out on her own. I know she always kind of had that dream of being an entrepreneur, and and doing her own thing. And she definitely has like taken me along for this ride. And I feel like it was one of those things like I've always worked for corporate America, like Fortune, like 100 companies, like large scale companies.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what it meant to work for a small business, let alone be your own boss and be an entrepreneur and do it all by yourself. And it was definitely scary that first like initial, okay, I'm handing in my 2 weeks notice now and I'm officially going to be on my own, and
Mhm.
luckily having an amazing business partner by my side to be there through the ups and the downs, and there certainly are those first couple years. But once you get through those, like it ends up being more ups than downs, certainly, and it makes it worth it. And it's so exciting to be on this journey. And it wasn't something I ever initially like, grew up thinking, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to like kill it and I'm going to be my own boss. But, in the thick of it, I'm so excited I took that leap.
Yeah. Can you guys tell us a bit about your leap from corporate and maybe like a general timeline if you were working on this as a side thing or just made a plan? Give us some insight
Yeah,
into that.
No.
dude, it was
Yeah.
crazy. Des and Tammy, it happened so fast for us. So both of us were experiencing jobs we weren't loving.
Mhm.
Let's
Mhm.
just say. Um, actually, Kristen, you have to tell her what was going on with you though. Like,
Oh my God. Yes, I had a job that was not great. And to the point where, like, I was 30 years old and I broke out in shingles. And
Mm.
30-year-olds are not supposed to get shingles. That's
no,
like a 60-year-old thing. And it can be stress induced, right?
Mhm.
So it was certainly one of those instances where I was like, this is a sign that this is just an unhealthy relationship right now.
Mhm.
So I pinged Holly one day when I was just like feeling just really defeated and just not like I was living my best life and like really fulfilling my best work and everything. Um, with the hope that maybe she had an idea of something that might be available and maybe working even for the company she was working for at the time. And I was like, hey, let's grab a drink. Because it's actually a funny and little known fact that like Holly and I were always like conference friends, but even though
mhm,
we lived in Chicago and like close to each other, we never hung out outside of like meeting up at conferences,
yeah,
which is super random. Like, because now we're like attached to the hip, clearly.
yes.
Um, but yeah, so I was just like, let's grab a drink and let's like chat about this. And one thing led to another. We will always credit the rooftop bar at the Wit Hotel in downtown Chicago for being the inception point of K&H. But yeah, it was one of those fortuitous conversations where she was like, I'm not loving it either, and let's like do this thing. So,
Yeah, honestly,
yeah.
so this is what happened. We have that conversation. I've been thinking about it for quite some time, and I talked to a few people that I consider mentors and was like, "What do you think if I do this?" And they were all really encouraging, and they were like, "But you need someone who can like look at details because you are not a detail woman, Holly."
Mm.
And I was like, "I know this." So I was like, that was like their big caution. Um, so talked with Kristen, and within a few days, Des and Tammy, like we like both, well, I quit my job and then Kristen had to go through a more formal process.
Okay.
But
Okay.
like out the door, we were setting up our LLC, trying to get as much paperwork together as we could. And then there's a big conference that I know Des knows about in Vegas every year called Money 2020.
Mhm.
And I think we had what, like 3.5 weeks until then, Kristen?
Not even. My last day at my corporate job was, I think it was October 8th. And
Okay. Oh yeah, we only had like two weeks maybe.
and
So
yeah, and Money 2020 was like the end of October that year.
yeah.
So it was like, I mean, we were working on some stuff my last 2 weeks when I knew I was like, peace out,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like on our nights and weekends to try to get everything put together. But yeah,
Mhm.
we literally like from the time that both of us were full time with K&H to when we went to Money 2020 to really launch and announce that we were doing our own thing. I think we had like 2 weeks. Like
Yeah.
it was like total whiplash, but hey,
Fast and
amazing.
furious. So yeah, that's that's how we came to be.
Wow.
That's that's
I
amazing.
know.
I have two questions. One question is, was that the money 2020 before the first flourish? I'm just trying to keep the timeline straight.
Before.
So, like, I know there
Oh,
were
It was it yeah, no, it was a year before that.
okay.
It was
Yeah.
Money 2020, 2015.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we didn't know about Apex being canceled until Money 2020, 2016
Right.
16. Yeah, 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 yeah.
because we
Okay.
did Flourish for the first year in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to get that timeline right in
Hmm.
my head.
Right.
One question that kind of came to mind while you guys were talking is, I mean, I will say our podcast skews female. We've tried to broaden it, but still definitely skew female.
Yeah.
Um, what was so cool about that story, and I didn't know that story, for one, so awesome, was the idea of like how cool that was in reaching out to somebody. Like there's this whole discussion around like, well, females are more competitive and stuff like that. And it really sounded like you reached out to somebody who you knew generally professionally and then were able to support each other and then created this thing. And there wasn't really like a threat of competition or this whole bigger picture of like, I don't know, like all that stuff that you hear about,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Have you in the that was definitely more of a reflective thing. I'm not doing well right now.
Well, it's okay.
I like that's
It's okay.
It's a good reflection. But it's honestly though, I would say like this is great. Oh man. Because like seriously, in one of the other things that Kristen and I do is we are part of a group called FinTech Women. And then we this year to have we came up with like another little project because we're not busy enough. And by little, I mean one of like it was a really cool undertaking. It was called Fin Founder, and it was a 2-day conference for female founders who are looking like figuring out how to grow. Because what we found is there is so much information out there to do like what we call like the sexy things, which is like how to make a pitch deck and how to actually pitch and how to like have your elevator speech, like all those sorts of things. But like I swear to God, Kristen and I spent a good chunk of our time being like, how do we do a partnership agreement? How do we finish a partnership agreement?
Still
what,
need to
what
do
kind
All
of
the
that.
details.
Yeah.
what does our accounting need to look like? Like all these things. And if we
Yeah.
ever thought about like selling a piece of what we do, what is that even about? So
Mhm.
we actually got really lucky. So through FinTech Women, we have met like tons of awesome ladies. I can't even express to you what a great community there is when when you're all just kind of I don't know. I think sometimes I think being in a very rigid work environment creates that competition.
Mhm.
But I don't know what I found is like through these groups that I've been a part of. So, there's FinTech Women, Women Tech Founders, Ms. Tech. There's a bunch in the Chicago area.
Mhm.
Kristen's doing a lot with Seattle Startup Week. Um, so we've been really lucky in that there are these communities that are built outside of like corporate structures
Mhm.
where everyone's like, I'm looking for XYZ for my career, for my business. I want to meet people. And it's just been a very open, really friendly community of
Mhm.
people just being like, yeah, I'm looking for this. Can you help me with this? And
Mhm.
really a lot of give and take. And so it's been super encouraging, and it's made me better at asking for help because that is something I'm terrible at, is asking for help. So it's something that like I've really learned through all this is saying I'm not an expert in this. I
Mhm.
need someone else.
So understanding your skill set and having
Hmm.
people like a whole community that you can reach out to rather than just each other and trying to
Mhm.
figure it
Yeah.
out yourselves.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I think part of the reason why a partnership for us was so attractive too in the first place, because you were kind of, I think, alluding to the fact like Holly and I not being competitive with each other, but like actually wanting to have a partnership. And I
Mhm.
think for us it was very much like we had very complementary skill sets where, she came from a different perspective, having worked and represented merchants within the value chain of our ecosystem, and I represented those large B2B programs that would be buying gift cards on behalf of those merchants or buying gift cards from those merchants. So we had kind of a good alternate perspective in that case. And then to Holly's earlier point too, like I am very detail oriented, or can be when necessary, So we were very like she's good at like big sky, like blue sky, like very like, um big picture thinking, and I am good at sort of like the detailed tasks. So we complement
She
each
brings
other.
me down to earth. She'll be like, Holly,
You're
listen,
like, let's just streamline this. Let's,
having a line of like, getting everyone in on a big joke, during a conference focused on one person is not going to happen. Like,
yeah.
these are the things I think I'm like, would be hilarious.
Oh, but it could.
Yeah.
So you're the big picture person here too.
That's great.
That comment that you made at the beginning, Des, where you're like, oh, they're just two girls like doing their thing.
Mhm.
You're like, I heard it as such a positive, and I'm like, but wait a minute. I did not hear positive in that comment at all.
Oh,
And so I wanted to kind of bring it back and kind of think about what hurdles do you ladies face in that industry as an all-female partnership in your business? Because that sounded pretty derogatory to me.
I mean, I was caught off guard, and then because training as a therapist,
Yeah.
you hear the word and then you hear the tone behind the word, so
Yeah.
you can pick it apart.
Yeah.
So I was definitely processing one thing, and then I was like, but that's and that's true. Like there are two women who are doing their thing. So
Yeah.
I was able to parse out my own inspiration, and granted I was in a very specific situation, and also all the things.
Yeah.
But yes, back to your hurdles question.
Back to my question to you ladies, what hurdles do you think you face as a female-run business in your industry?
So I would say it comes out more when we're doing stuff with if it's very fintech focused. Kristen and I would go to conferences when she lived in Chicago, or just networking things. And we'd take a deep breath and be like, all right, we're going to be one of the only chicks in the room. And truly, we would be maybe one of 10 women in a group of 100,
Mhm.
But we did have actually really one of the first times we did that. When we were meeting a guy, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm the guy in the blue suit. And we're both kind of in our heads. We're like, why would that be the descriptor he gave us? And he's just messing with us. He was just really funny. He's like, there's no way you were going to find me. But we found ourselves in our heads being like, well, this idiot telling us he's in a blue suit,
Yeah. Walking into a room of 200 dudes in blue suits, Yeah, I mean, that's a real good descriptor. But honestly,
Yeah.
I would say, again, it goes back to having a partner by my side to also do that. I
Yeah.
mean, I think so much of the female community needs to be centered around supporting each other and lifting each other up. And that's a lot about what we do with FinTech Women. It's all about amplifying the message of what women are doing in our industry and really help proliferate that great content and the subject matter expertise. And you go to these conferences and you see all male panels, and that is something we are, oh my god, when we see that, and we sometimes do even contact the conference organizers and we're like, listen, we know some badass women you guys need to talk to, because you need to get some more females on that panel, because this is looking a little sexist right now. So it's just making sure we really encourage that and support each other, and have each other's backs, and kind of get that strength with numbers, and really make sure that we are really representing. And we make comments all the time about when we do walk into rooms and we're one of the few females, we're like, where are all of the women? Because we know there are plenty of amazing women in this industry. Why are they not showing up, and why are they not representing? And so that's a big part of what FinTech Women is about too.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Des here. I'm just popping in with a quick message for all of you entrepreneurs and side hustlers out there. Are you ready to grow your business so you have real influence, so that when you speak, people don't just listen, they actually do something? Do you want to be able to share your message, product, or service in a way that feels truly authentic to you so you can stand out from the crowd? Are you ready to finally be a true leader in your industry? If so, then it's time you signed up for the free Legendary Leadership Challenge. In just 5 days, you will be able to define your leadership style, develop a whole new way to view all the things on your to-do list so you're not overwhelmed, create consistent standout content, increase your community engagement and connections, real, actual connections, and redefine self-care so you can keep doing all the things you're made to do. If you're ready to rise up as the legendary leader you know you are, then head on over to DesireeW.com and click on the Legendary Leadership Challenge and sign up today. And when you sign up for the challenge, you also get 5 free days to all of the content in the Legendary Leadership Society. Guys, it's nuts. So if you're ready to learn how to lead your way, take the Legendary Leadership Challenge today.
there was a really good quote from Jessica Williams, who, if you guys don't know Jessica Williams, she's a really hilarious comedian.
Oh.
And she said something, I don't know what, like she was on a late night show and they're like interviewing her about her show, Two Dope Queens. And she was talking about how when she was doing sketch comedy, she would be in like, it'd be her and like all guys in a group. And she would start doing comedy that like conformed to like the men in the group and not her personal voice.
Mm.
That is something that I have found I fight. I personally have to fight because I grew up with four brothers. Growing up, like most of my friends were guys. And even then, like I went and did sketch comedy for a while with a group of all men.
Mm.
And I realized like I let a lot of things, like I'll let like something ride that I'm like, I actually don't agree with that, but I'm not gonna
Mhm.
like pick it apart or whatever, just to keep the peace. But it's just kind of interesting. She had said something about like, her success came when she was like really being herself and
Mhm.
Mm.
speaking to you like her truth. And so it's something that it took me a really long time to figure out what that means for me professionally, just like in all different aspects of
Mhm. Yeah.
what I do. So I would say that's something that like I wasn't conscious of needing to fight
Mhm.
until I was like, oh yeah, why would I agree with that statement? That's not me. And I think sometimes when you are your brand, more I don't know, like in a more pronounced way as
Mhm.
you are as an entrepreneur, like
Mhm.
these
Mhm.
things kind of like rise to the top a bit. And
They
I'd say
matter more.
they
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I would say that has been the most interesting thing, just on a personal level, was really just finding like, okay, who it's kind of a like, who am I? Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
what do I agree with? What do I not agree with in a more pointed way? And figuring out how to voice that um, in a way that was still engaging,
Mhm.
in a
Mhm.
way that wasn't just like complaining or not fixing a problem. That
Mhm.
is my biggest thing. You run into a lot of people who are like going to talk about it but not do it. I
Mhm.
I like doers.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the personal thing I would say,
Mhm.
Tammy, to kind of
Yeah.
answer your question. That's like it's like a personal struggle, not even really it's not really something someone's imposing upon me. It's me figuring that out.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I love that you found like an empowering and authentic way to do it, but I think
Mhm.
it speaks to that need, especially when you're an entrepreneur and it's just you and you are your business. I know we've talked about this
Mhm.
before, that you have to figure out what you stand for. You have to kind of refine those things and then
Mhm.
finding a way to approach it in a way that still engages people rather than like pushing them away. And I heard that
Yeah.
in everything that you just said. So I think
Mhm.
that that's just amazing and lovely.
Well, thanks.
We're just showering everybody with compliments today.
Very happy over here today, you
I
guys. I
know.
love it. I love it.
One thing, like another piece that I do want to kind of touch on is it was a really quick start from corporate to doing the entrepreneur thing. And then I know with Flourish, and if you guys want to give a bit of a background about Flourish, I know that that was a really quick start in, okay, we're doing this now too. Um, I feel like I have two questions is like, r- speak to recognizing the opportunity and like the fear around that, and also making it actually happen and utilizing like resources and stuff to make things like that happen. If you wouldn't mind.
Oh yeah. Dude, I will say this, and then I feel like I've been talking a lot, so I'll let Kristen. But I will just say opportunity did not look like I thought it would. Because I think in my head, opportunity was supposed to be like 80% complete. Um, but what we'd had was just enough things happen at the same time to be like, oh crap, that's opportunity. Like it was so like we kind of did a lot of like side eye at each other, like, is this it? Is this it? Should we do this? And like there was a lot of that in a short amount of time. But that is one thing I just don't think opportunity looks like we all expect it to.
Mm.
And for us, it was two things. Kristen mentioned it earlier. Apex, a big conference that we all
Mhm.
used to go to, was canceled. And then number two, I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm at Money 2020 again. Big things happen there. This is like, I don't want it to be an advertisement, but it kind of is all of a sudden. Anyways,
It's gonna be like Vegas every year.
Vegas. Vegas, things happen. And what happened there did not stay there,
No.
luckily. Um, no, and then we ran into someone I just kind of knew from home. Like he was wearing a badge that said like that he was from Omaha, and I was like, in like the Chamber of Commerce there, and I was like, "What are you doing here? Like, what?" And he was like, "Oh, we want to bring like some sort of like financial conference to Omaha." And I was like, "Oh, we could help with that one day." And then we're like, "Oh, Apex gets canceled. They want to bring a show there." And then so we're like, "Is this opportunity?"
Well, and then also all of like the SIGs, so like the special interest groups and stuff within our industry who normally host their like quarterly member meeting at Apex were looking for a location to host their spring meeting. And so they were all kind of scrambling and like, well, do we just like book a conference room at a hotel and just tell everybody to show up for this one meeting? Because these are paying members and like part of your membership benefit is to have this education and this regular touch base.
Mhm.
So they were kind of looking for something. So it really was like the best like mix of things that we were just like, is this the universe telling us to do this? And we're like, well, we're kind of ballsy enough to just try it. So why not? It's a big risk putting on a show because it's not
Yeah.
an inexpensive endeavor. But we were like, hey, if we focus all of our energy into executing this well, we really do think we can pull something amazing off.
Mhm.
And, luckily that was the response. It really resonated with people. And there was clearly a need for this. So, um, we definitely found a sweet spot there. But I would say overall, like, not everything turns out that way, right? Like, we test and learn
Oh
constantly,
yeah.
and we are constantly trying new initiatives. And, Holly and I will do something. I'm like, yeah, that wasn't so fun, and like, we didn't really enjoy that kind of work. Like, let's not do that again. And it's just, that's what you do as an entrepreneur. You try different things. Like, certain times cash flow is more important. So you take on a project that maybe you don't like, and you just deal with that. But then hopefully you get to a point where you've really hit on your value proposition that resonates with people, and people are willing to pay you for that particular thing, and you can continue doing the work that you love. But it definitely takes some time to get there and takes some iteration, and where we were back in October of 2015 is not where we are now as far as the services that we provide and the kind of work that we do. So it's an evolution, and it will constantly be that.
Well, I love that you talk a little bit about like the nitty gritty of it. Like it isn't
Mhm.
always like success and rainbows and everything's perfect, even when you have like really brilliant opportunities that work out. But
Oh my God. Yeah, no.
you're like not even close.
We wish. Yeah.
I'm like, I saw these two the first year of Flourish. Like, you guys looked great, and I did not want to be you at all.
Oh,
Oh,
man. They look like
man.
frazzled and wide-eyed at you?
like hadn't slept in 2 weeks, but with really, really good not slept in 2 weeks.
With grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We weren't maniacally laughing straight at you yet.
That was actually the keynote. You don't remember that?
Yeah, right? I was thinking that. No. Oh, man.
um, let's see. I'm thinking. So, in terms of when opportunity comes and everything, like it is you two as the core. How have you guys learned to reach out? And I think Holly, you mentioned this earlier, like acknowledging zones of genius, like zones of specialty, and knowing even your bandwidth. Not even like, well, I could do that, I couldn't do that, but like, can I take it on right now? Um, how have you guys kind of navigated that piece with all of the things that because you've always been juggling things like K&H and Flourish have always been kind of multiple
Mhm.
pieces in the air. Um, what kind of learnings do you have around that?
Yeah, so I would say there was certainly a time preparing for Flourish 2018, as we were kind of in
Mm.
like that last week. I came to Chicago to prep for the final few details before the show kicked off. And I remember looking at Holly and I was like, we got to do this differently next year. Like, I literally have not slept in 2 months, and like, you put this pressure on yourself, right? That you have to like up the ante next year. And so,
Mm.
Flourish 2017 was was stressful because we had never done it before, but there was also a very low bar to kind of, meet. But then 2018, I think, yes, we had done it before. We had experience, but there was this like expectation that we had to like meet it even higher. So I think we very much internalized that, and it was still just Holly and I. Like we were outsourced a few things here and there, but
Mhm.
for the most part, I would say 90% of the work, was done by either myself or Holly.
Mhm.
So, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we have to realize that, we can't do everything and that there are probably people who can do certain things better, quicker, more efficiently that we need to leverage next year.
Yeah.
So that's certainly part of it. And just understanding like, what do you derive energy from and what drains your energy, right? And
Mhm.
it's just
Mhm.
like those are things that like the things that drain our energy, like we need to outsource that. We need it because somebody else loves doing marketing and loves putting together all those social media posts and energy and all of that stuff. And that is not me. That person is not me. So how do we find that person who loves to do that and derives energy from it and doesn't feel drained having to do it? And just understanding like what those motivations and factors are for you and like how like where you're missing those particular pieces.
Yeah. I'd say the other thing is learning to not be afraid to use your budget, and actually hire people.
Mhm.
Uh, I think the fear of spending the money and maybe not getting the return on it is something that really took us a while to get over. And then we realized, wait, we're asking people the very same thing. We want them to hire us and use their budget, right? So you can't expect. This is something I really believe. You cannot expect people to invest in you if you will not invest in yourself,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, so investing in yourself can sometimes mean hiring the outside help.
Mhm.
And I think recognizing that was something that took us time, even though people were screaming it at us. I'm not kidding you. Like we had mentors telling us this the whole way along. We had our husbands being like, maybe ladies should think about some help,
Possibly.
yes. So maybe we could see you. Um, but like, it really took us learning it and internalizing it and saying, look at all the expertise that's out there. Look at how we want people to work with us. How about we actually adopt that model? And I think it's just one of those things that entrepreneurs have to learn. Like you
Mhm.
have to learn through experience. I think there are
Mhm.
some things that I could be told 20 times and until I'm like, oh yeah, I had that experience. Now I understand it. Like it just wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's
Personal
funny,
learning
even
is really important.
Mhm.
I would say even like the tools and services that you use too. That like
Yeah.
Holly and I were joking like a month or two ago. We were like, "Oh, it's only $30 a month for that particular thing. Great, totally worth it." Whereas like even a year ago, we would be like, "Ooh, I don't know, that's kind of expensive." But like the efficiencies that we get from these things, it's like it is worth our time. We charge X number dollars an hour for our time. Like, why are we not willing to pay for a $30 tool that will save us that and some, like
Oh
it
yeah.
Mhm.
doesn't make any sense, you know?
Like, I
So
remember when Gmail went from like $5 an account user to 10, and we're like, whoa, hold the phone. What is that? Like now we're like, that is how, things go. But like,
Mhm.
I just remember every penny being like, I don't know, like you were bleeding me or something. And I'm like, okay, this
Mhm.
Mhm.
cannot be how we function because we're way better when we're not that way.
Mhm.
Mhm.
mhm,
I remember that was actually one thing that you guys told me back in the day when we were just starting. So I think you knew this. I got
Mhm.
together with Chris and Holly,
Mhm.
um, Flourish Year One, and I was
Mhm.
like, guys, I'm thinking about doing this. And like the one thing that you guys told me was don't be afraid to pay for software.
absolutely. I still stand by that.
I know.
I feel like
Oh
it
yeah.
saved me a lot of time and tears
Mhm.
because I came back and I was like, here are the things we're getting because they said they would have done this sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the decision to bring on people is a little bit harder and takes you a
Hmm.
little bit longer just because there is that upfront investment in you. I mean, it's a person, it's not a software. You can't just cancel, anytime,
Hmm.
so that kind of thing. So I would say, that took us longer to get over that hurdle of like, okay, we really do need to bring on like the people resources and not just the software resources.
Hmm.
But now that we've done it, I mean, there have been so many times when Holly and I were like, why didn't we do this sooner? Oh my God. Like it just like frees up your headspace to think about other things, and you're not in the minutia, of some other details. So it definitely has been a game changer.
Mhm.
Well, and as entrepreneurs, like I think you just hit the nail on the head right there. Like it's your job to run your business and be focused on like the bigger picture and the next steps and constantly like growing it. And then it's other folks who that, and you mentioned this earlier, where like the smaller pieces are their wheelhouse and their areas of expertise and they feel good doing it. So like it creates this really cool like cycle of energy, really,
Mhm.
where someone's coming in every day like super stoked about it, where you guys are like freed up and all of that stuff, and it creates a really really good environment, I think. But you're right, like I would say the fear, we haven't brought anybody on. um
We're holding on. We'll get software though.
but I mean, I could imagine the fear. I remember the fear of investing in Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember the fear in like investing in things, and we've had to buy like tech recently and everything. Like I get the fear of the investment. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's see.
I think it's real for everybody.
Yeah, well, because yeah, especially when you're just starting out, like every penny counts.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
every penny counts.
Yep.
We know the feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Tammy, do you have any other questions?
Well, I had one, but it sounds like it got answered for me. I was going to ask you, like, what advice you would have for people who are maybe just starting out or trying to, like, have maybe struggling to move their idea forward or to move their business forward. But then you said invest in software. So,
Or if they're afraid. I'll go with they're afraid, because stemming from the getting started story, like there is a ton of fear.
Oh, yeah.
How would you?
so
So
what recommendations do you ladies have?
Don't overthink it. I mean, honestly, I think that was the best thing we did accidentally was just not think about it too long, because I would have definitely, I think we both would have talked ourselves out of it
Yep.
had we waited much longer. So the thing is that if I mean, once you're in it and once you have the work to do, it's less scary.
Mhm.
That is, I think, like a universal truth, because then you're working towards the project. When it's your side hustle, you still see the opportunity to like work on something else, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, so I think for us, it was just making it like you sink or swim, and
Mhm.
really just having to swim like gave us something to do and something to focus on. And so I'd say just pull a Nike and just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
I would actually agree though, like your point about side hustles, Holly, like we could have never done what we're doing as a side hustle. And I
Oh
don't think
God, no.
we wouldn't be where we are right now if we started that way. It required us to like rip the Band-Aid off and just like,
Mhm.
quit your job cold turkey. Like we had talked to, our mentors and advisors and other people to say like, if we did this, like don't just do it, without thinking
Without a
through
plan.
everything,
Yeah.
without a plan. But like don't take too long. Don't wait for the perfect scenario because it will never be perfect, And
Mhm.
I think, for me in particular, it was so not perfect at my last job that it gave me the guts to be like, well, anything is better,
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
luckily it was just it's been amazing, but it's definitely something you just got to kind of like rip the Band-Aid off and make sure that you've done your due diligence. But after that, like you've really just got to dive in, 'cause you can't do it as a side hustle forever and really expect it to grow and flourish. Ah,
I see
Well
what you did
done.
there.
I really didn't mean to plug that.
So let our listeners know where they can find you.
Well, you can find us on khconnection.com. That's also our handle on Twitter. And then otherwise, flourishcon.com. And you can follow, that's also our flourishcon is our handle on all social media. So like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So find us there or just find us individually. We're always happy to chat.
Yeah. And if you guys like their witty banter, I will plug they're bringing back Flourish in a Flash, their Friday video series. So if you need more of this amazing, amazing banter, then that is where to go for that. Which is so,
If you
I'm not
need a
being, it
little
sounds
nerdy
snarky.
in
I'm
your
like,
life.
no, it's good.
You're like, I'm being authentic and sincere.
You need two nerds in your life. That's the one for you.
got it.
You guys could totally have a podcast about your industry, and because of your personalities, I think it could completely explode.
Yep.
I think it would just be so good.
Interesting thoughts.
I'm just saying, because like niche podcasts
I
are some
know.
of the most popular ones because it makes like weird stuff accessible, and you guys are so
Yes.
good at it. Oh my god, it would be amazing. I also know
Listen.
someone that does podcast editing.
Wow.
So weird.
I mean, who knew? Okay. Kristen, Holly, thank you so much. We may have to have you back for another episode at
Agreed.
some point. So
Definitely.
good. You're always welcome back.
Awesome.
Love it.
And we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye, friends.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
ladies.
Thanks for having
thanks,
us.
guys.
All right.
Bye.
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 Well, that wraps up another episode of the Sugar and Spikes podcast. If you guys like what we're doing, please subscribe, leave a rating, share it with your friends. It would mean the world to us. If you're not a huge fan of what we're doing, maybe share it with someone you think may like it. If you want to keep up to date on all of the Sugar and Spikes shenanigans, get the behind-the-scenes tour of life and business as a millennial female entrepreneur, then follow me across all the social medias. I'm Des W, Ms. MBA. DEZWMSMBA across all the platforms, your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagrams. I'm there, same name. And don't forget, if you're ready to rise up as a legendary leader, you know you are, then head on over to DesireeW.com and sign up for the free 5-day Legendary Leadership Challenge. Also, I want to thank Forget the Whale for use of their song Move Along as our theme music. And guys, remember to stay unavailable for fuckery.